It's your process because it's great reading books about this. I'm glad you bought the course. I'm glad you're going through this course because what you get out of this course is going to help you to make the next step, whatever that step is for you. There's going to be hundreds of thousands of guys that are taking this course, and they're all going to take a different step ahead from what they're taking from this course right now. This is where I'm still developing. I'm still developing as a coach. You're still developing, just getting this information for the first time. Maybe you were getting this information in other ways, because that's the one thing that I did see in my life is when I first got injured, I didn't understand why somebody gave me the serenity prayer. Really, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the serenity to know the difference, because you're right. When I first got injured, I was angry. I remember driving my van with hand controls, looking in the rearview mirror, just, I hated myself. I hated the fact that I had to drive this van this way. I remember driving, it would be for hours and my shoulder would be killing me. And I had to push for the gas and pull for the brakes and keep that hand up there. That had that, man, my hand was in pins and needles. It was hurting because I had to keep it. If I wanted to drive straight, I had to keep that hand in that position for hours. And I remember just looking in the rearview mirror, just so disgusted, so angry. Why do I have to live like this? This is too much work. This hurts too much, you know? And thank God that those feelings pass. Thank God that those thoughts pass, because there's no magic answer on how to get rid of that. There's no magic answer on how not to feel that. Hate to say it, if you're listening to this, then most likely you're a human being, all right? And if you're a human being, then you got these things called emotions. Now, there's been a lot of books written on emotions and how to deal with your emotions, and or how emotions deal with you. So where are you at? Are your emotions dealing with you, or are you dealing with your emotions? You know, start there. I would just start being honest with yourself right there. And then once you have the answer to that question, I can't give you the answer. I can give you the answer that I chose because I experienced it both. There was a time in my life with this injury that my emotions dictated everything to what I thought or believed, to who I was. Everything. And so I thought I was doomed, because the last thing I heard, there was no magic pill, even though I tried to find every pill, joint, line of cocaine to try to numb this and get rid of this. Every woman, everything, to try to get rid of this feeling of why me, why this? How did I do this, and how the hell do I get out of it? So you might be desperate to get out of it. I'm telling you, the gift is in feeling it. Being honest with yourself. See what happens. See what happens. We're here for you. You don't do this by yourself. I know you're in front of the book and everything else like that, but we are available. I am available to you. Whenever you have a question, whenever you have a comment that you need to make, contact me, talk to me, talk to my partner, talk to the people that I'm going to be referring to you or suggesting to you. Don't do this alone. It's too big. It's too massive. And so are the rewards, my friend. So are the rewards. So it's not just about the feelings. It's not just all about the negative thinking or anything like that, man. There are some beautiful things that are going to come about. You'll see, you'll surprise yourself. I still surprise myself, and God still surprises me. Life still surprises me. Shit still happens, but I look at it at a different way. It's a shift in perspective. The sleeper has awakened. I spent a long time sleeping. I spent a long time trying to numb my feelings out. When you're awakened, just get ready for the success. Get ready for the excitement of it all. When you work out in the gym, right? Pushing iron, right? That don't feel good right there. Can I do another one? You know, it don't feel good. You feel the tightness in your muscles, but you know what? You do that enough times and then you rest and then you let your muscles develop. You do the same thing with your mental and your emotional muscles too. Don't think that a muscle is just about your biceps, your triceps, those physical muscles. You have a mind muscle here, brother. This is amazing. And what you feed it is what you're going to give it, is how it's going to grow. You feed it negativity, you're going to get negativity. You feed it positivity, you're going to get positivity. Yet, both those things are still okay, because even a battery has both positive and negative charge, right? Doesn't make it a bad battery, right? It still does its job, right? You'll see. You just have to figure out if you want to be a Duracell or if you just want to be one of those cheap old batteries. Choice is yours.
I can remember being where you're at right now. I was more or less in shock. It felt like fog, if you will. I mean, I was there, but I wasn't there, if you know what I mean. And I can still remember trying to figure out how I was going to get through this. Understand that you are probably struggling with that right now. I can honestly tell you that it's not easy, but you can do it. You're going to have some good days. You're going to have some bad days. And I think that you just have to start, and just start with something simple, that I can do it, or I'm going to get through this. You may not know how right now, but that will be the start of you getting from the feeling that you're having right now mentally. You're going to have to be your own cheerleader at times. Great if you have family and friends around you, but some of us don't. Some of us, you feel like you're going through this all alone, but I'm here to tell you, you're not going through it by yourself. And I think once I connected with other people who were going through the things that I went through, I think it helped me, and I believe that it will help you. If you will just try and understand that it's not going to be easy, but you can do it. So that begins with having a positive attitude, or trying to be as positive as you can be. When you are faced with opportunities, when they come knocking at your door, try it out. See what happens. I mean, what's the worst that could happen at this point? So I think that you have to believe in you, and you really, really have to decide that you can do it.
How important are our relationships as we move through this transition as a newly disabled person?
I think relationships is key to being part of your recovery, to being part of your success. The thing is to get honest with yourself first and ask yourself, what kind of relationship am I in right now? Relationship with yourself, relationship with the people around you. What's it all about? You know, is it about control? Is it about giving to each other? Is it about forgiveness? I mean, they're complex. Relationship, each one is so complex. That's where your work comes into it. That's where you have to find the desire, the willingness to really see what you need to do instead of trying to get other people to change. You know, in order for you to feel better, you need to focus on what you need to change in order for you to feel better. Relationships is all about that, because you got to bring whatever is inside of here, whatever that is, a productive way where it's going to benefit you and not hinder you. Because if I am so angry about this injury, and I have been, and I can't tell you how many times I said the F word at my parents who were there to just help me. And I was just so angry. I was just so stuck in that anger that I was pushing people away that wanted to help. And so that relationship wasn't benefit. I ended up getting into a relationship with women that I wasn't being honest with, and that were not being honest with me. You know, so these standards of what type of relationship you want to have, what's the quality of relationship that you want to have, is going to be key to being part of your recovery, and how that's going to help you and not hinder you.
Don't underestimate the power of your relationships. I mean, this could be your family, your friends, even some of your therapists. What I know that you don't know is that they're all, to a certain extent, going to be part of your recovery process. And you just have to allow them to help when you need their help. And at times, you have to be strong enough to say, I got it. I can do it, when you feel that you're at that point. But these relationships are so important, because I believe that they go hand in hand with the opportunities that you will come across as you go through this process.
How would my current relationships be affected by my new disability?
Wow, that's a tough one. It was new for all of us. You see, we were all learning at the same time what I couldn't do and how that needed to change in order for, at least for me, to continue to live. You know, I had to learn about bowel and bladder care. And what do you do with that? For me, it was difficult. You know, I needed so much help, physical help. And so that meant either strangers that had to come to my house that I never knew, never met before, a certified nurse's aide that would have to come to my house I never met before is now just going to rip the covers off me. You know, let's get to work here. Let's get up now. So those relationships had to be developed, and not so much developed because my relationship with my mom and dad was such a struggle, such a difficult relationship, because it was a difficult relationship before the injury. All right. It was a difficult relationship before the injury. So all those relationships that were difficult before your injury, those are going to still be difficult relationships. Somewhat a little bit probably more difficult because you might not be the one in control now. And you might be the one now that you are dependent on that person that you had an ill relationship before the injury. So what do you do now? This is why it's so important to have that relationship, a different mindset about how you're going to move forward. You know, this is why it's so important for you to get some of these basics down, because you're going to need the basics in order to get through those difficult relationships. Today, 40 years later, I'm realizing that I'm in control of those relationships that I want to have today. I don't have to be in a negative relationship today. I got boundaries. I got values. I got goals where I want to try to achieve. And if you're going to be in my ballpark, then you're going to have to play by these games. And not to say, hey, to this way, the highway, but kind of, yes, that's the way it is sometimes. But you do it with love. And that's the most difficult thing for me, is how do I work with other people and how other people work with me where it benefits the both of us and not just me, because it can't just be about me. People in my life, you know, my parents have passed, two of my siblings have passed, but today, you know, I got people that I love and that love me and that work for me and that work with me. Today, I got this amazing support network of people. And the amazing thing is I got a support network of the doctors, all the doctors I need. I got a support network of nurses, the nurses that I'm going to need. I got a support in the community. I got support wherever I go. And you know what? It's up to you. Reach out and start creating that support network, you know? And I guess you're going to have to, that's what I'm saying. You're going to have to learn some of the basics of relationships. You're going to have to treat other people as you would want to be treated. Bottom line, you know, that's going to be difficult to do sometimes, especially when you have a negative relationship with yourself. So, because you can only give back what you know how to give, or you can only give back what you know. So if all you know is negativity and that's all you're going to give back, then you're probably going to find yourself alone a lot. And sometimes I made that choice to isolate myself. Something my good friend Willis Washington told me, that 2 days in the bed is too long, because that could be my go-to place when I don't want to deal with relationships. I go isolate, I go to bed, sleep it off, it'll go away, you know? And although I tell people that when you're angry and you're fighting with your spouse or with whoever, you know, I'll tell you, give it 24 hours before you make any type of final decision coming from the place of anger. Give it some time before you make that final decision, because a decision will have to be made, especially if it's repetitious. Determining the definition for insanity is repeating the same things over again and expecting different results. So you're going to have to start making some changes on how you go about your relationships and how you go about relating to yourself in this new body, this different body. It may not be the body you want, but it's the only body you have right now. So what are you going to do to make it a better body, both physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially, and relationships? Because that's a big part of it. And remember, it's not over. We're still trying to figure it out. So that's where the hope comes in. Just get on the path, though, of making better relationships. That you can at least do today.
Yeah. So I have to be honest with you. Throughout this process, there's going to be some relationships that are going to go away. There'll be some that will be there that you'll learn to appreciate later. And I think you'll also learn to appreciate even the ones that go away. It's not easy, of course, you being the person that's going through this process, but some other people, and I've had friends tell me that they just couldn't stand to see me the way that I am now. And, of course, that was a little tough for me to wrap my head around, but I had to accept it. And so once again, you just have to understand that you're going to meet and be around the right people that will support you and love you and help you get through this process, which is not easy, but they're there. And those are the relationships that you want to appreciate and invest more in, because this is sort of like a team effort, if you will. I mean, it's you, me, and them. How can we get through this? And I know at times you'll feel like it's just you, but you will learn that you need help when you need help, and you have to get to a point where you're okay accepting that help.
Now, what are some of the techniques that you can use, for me to communicate my needs and my
honesty? I would begin with honesty. Learn to be honest with yourself. Learn to be honest with others, even if it means that they're not going to like what you have to say. That's the whole thing about relationships. It all depends what your motive is for the relationship. I found myself in a lot of intimate relationships of girls that I dated, women that I married, and the motives there were wrong for me. I can reflect on that, but I couldn't admit that at the time. Are you kidding? I needed that. I needed that stroke, that, oh yeah, baby, you're the one. I love you, and I didn't know how to get that from a place other than, what do I have to do for you? Or what do you want to hear? So the technique for me, and that's why I say honesty, open-mindedness, the willingness to try out something new, even if you don't know exactly, how it's going to go. I'm telling you, man, the first time that I was intimate with my girlfriend after my injury, man, it was messy. And I mean messy in all ways. So relationships they're in constant flux. It's constantly changing.
There are going to be some challenges as far as being in relationships that are of the opposite sex. There's going to be some challenges, can I be intimate? How do I be intimate? And there's information out there about that. I would definitely encourage you to reach out to your therapist, your doctors, your urologists, who can give you some material, some resources and information to help, videos and whatnot in those areas. But once again, you have to understand that a relationship involves two people. So you will have a lot of questions, and so might your partner or the person that you desire to be intimate with. And I'm not going to lie to you, it becomes a work in progress. You have to have an open mind in the sense of some things will have to be approached differently. And you have to think outside the box a whole lot. And although that the physical intimacy is a big part of a relationship, it's not the only part of a relationship. And I think that it helps if you are able to develop a relationship in other areas outside of just the physical that will give you some sense of balance. Myself, I know that companionship is probably the biggest part of the relationship at this point in my life, more so than just the physical. It's never a good thing to allow yourself to become isolated, or if you find yourself isolating yourself from your friends, from your family, I encourage you to own that and recognize that it's happening and not stay there. That's where you're going to need to lean on those relationships and reach out to people and say, hey, I don't know what it is, but I am really struggling right now. Can you help me? Or just hear me out. What do you think about this? What would you do if you were going through this? And they may not know, but I think sometimes just talking about it and getting outside of your own head, and definitely getting outside of your room, because the four walls, they'll start to close in on you if you allow yourself to start having a pity party for yourself. And believe me, I understand, I get it, that every day is not great, but you have to find the strength and the courage to push through. And I think that in these relationships, you just have to understand that things are going to be challenging. Things are going to be different, but hopefully you can communicate, because that's going to be a huge part of getting through and having a solid, meaningful relationship, is to be able to communicate and talk about how you're feeling, talk about what you're thinking, or that you don't want to disappoint this person in this area because of this or because of that, and just see how they feel about it. You'd be surprised just by having that conversation, how much it'll help.
I don't want to sound like a broken record, but it's difficult only because some of the things that I'm learning now, 40 years after this injury, is still things that I was still trying to learn at 17 when I had the injury. So healthy relationships is still something new for me, believe it or not, folks. So please understand that, man, there's a lot of stuff that I can give you, but I can't give you everything, only because I'm still in the process too. And you know what? You're going to help me as well too, become a better person in those relationships, as you show me, because again, it all depends on where your relationships were at the time of your injury. Mine were not in a good place. Mine took a long time to heal and are still healing. Those relationships are in a better place today because I've learned how to communicate honestly, because I've learned how to stay open-minded, because I'm more willing to change it if I'm not happy with those relationships, or I have to allow them to go, to dissolve them, only because they're not benefiting me or the other person. In order to have a relationship on a solid foundation, then it's not just about the body. It's about how you guys make each other feel. It's not just what you do for each other, but it's how you make the other person feel. Do you make the other person feel like you're a burden? Do you make the other person feel like you're just being used or you're using them? Or do you make the person feel special and let them know? Because I'm telling you, one of the toughest words that I had to learn probably 30 years, all right, after 30 years of my injury was thank you. Thank you. Because I was in a place where I thought I was entitled to just give me what I want. Shouldn't have to say thank you, shouldn't have to say please, until somebody pointed out to me in a relationship. Hector, I noticed you never say please or thank you. And I was like, that one hit me in the chest, like, wow, I thought I did relationships like Mr. Suave. And she pointed that out to me. So man, you're gonna be surprised of how this injury could help you have a deeper understanding of relationships and about what other people mean to you. Not because you need them physically to help you do things, but the fact that they're going to stay there, that they're going to be there, whether you have to do something for them or, you know what I'm saying? Because they enjoy being with you, because they like being with you, because you're helping them out too, You'll get there, man. We'll get there, but I'm just telling you, I'm not all there yet. And there's a little joke that says, the reason that we're here is because we're not all there sometimes, so just give yourself a break on the big ones. And relationship is a big one. It's a day-to-day thing. It's an hour-to-hour thing, but keeping honest is key for me. That's where I'm at today right now, is just sharing people my honesty and admitting when I'm wrong, you know, because I'm not always right. A lot of times I'm not always right. I just got people around me that want to help me with that. And I let them help me with that. As a matter of fact, I asked them to help me with that, you know.
You need to adopt and embrace an attitude of gratitude. There will be some relationships that you'll feel like that you're becoming a burden on other people who have to help you out, but you have to understand that in some cases you need the help. I mean, there's just no way around that. And of course, you don't want to abuse that help. I mean, if you have the ability, by all means do it, or get to a point where you can do it, you know, make that one of your goals that, you know, I'm going to do this so that, you know, this takes a little bit of, you know, what they have to do to help me off of them. But understand that in most cases, these relationships and the people that you're surrounded with love you. I mean, this is your family, your closest friends. They want to do all they can do to help you, and that's okay. And I know for me, and I hope that you will be able to get to a point where you can accept that help, because that was a big deal for me. And it is for a lot of people, that you maybe, before this happened to you, you were a very independent person, did everything on your own. And now, wham, can't do it that way anymore. You know, that was the old you. And now faced with having to accept help, which is not always easy. But I would like to encourage you to try to look beyond feeling in the moment like you're a burden, and just understand that your family, your loved ones, your caregivers, yes, they're, you know, in some cases doing their job, but that's part of your healing process. And I would just say to you, thinking back, to just embrace that and understand that it may feel like a burden, but you're probably an inspiration to them. I know it took me a while to accept that. And I would often hear people say that, and I'll say it to you, because I would love to find out what you're going to do one day that will inspire me and inspire others.